competitive Pokemon has suffered from a lot of power creep over the years. Former staples of competitive singles that saw frequent use in tournaments have now faded into obscurity, no longer the titans they once were. These old favorites replaced by new, powerful Pokemon released in each game. But there are some Pokemon who just always seem to be good in every generation. Sometimes a Pokemon's design is so fundamentally solid from the beginning that it stands the test of time, even while everything else around it is getting more and more powerful. Let's take a look at some examples of competitive Pokemon that always succeed. Subscribe to the channel very quickly. I am dangerously close to achieving 90,000 subscribers, and when I do, it is rumored that the Pokemon Muck will finally be able to achieve his dream of transforming into a horse. Please help him. Thank you. First up, we of course have Zapdos, the most consistent competitive Pokemon of all time. Introduced all the way back in Generation 1, where it was a great Pokemon, to this day in Generation 9, it is still used in OU. That kind of longevity has not been seen ever before, and it's been over 20 years of Zapdos viability. Back in Gen 1, this thing had a strong start. It's easy to see why. Fundamentally very solid. Electric Flying is a great combo. It's actually strictly better than just Mono Flying, because Electric only has one weakness to ground, and Flying removes that weakness, so Electric is all upside for you. Electric provides no detriment. It gives you stab on electric moves, and some resistances, and a neutrality to enemy electric attacks. It's pretty nice. Zapdos hits hard with its high special attack stat. Its solid stats everywhere else are just, good enough for it to function defensively too. And in Gen 1, it's a simple offensive threat that can also spread paralysis. In the early generations, this thing is just a consistent machine. In Gen 2, it is the second best Pokemon in the entire game, right behind Snorlax. In Gen 3, it's once again a top tier choice. Even in Gen 4, when Stealth Rock was introduced, which was a blanket nerf to anything weak to rock, Zapdos is one of those flying types that stayed good. It gained options like Heat Wave and U-Turn, which helped it keep up, as well as Roost for healing, so it did get a lot of new tools, but Stealth Rock was not enough to keep Zapdos down. Still good defensively, offensively, just solid, and power creep didn't change that back in Gen 4. The one blemish on Zapdos' long career was Gen 5, where it was outclassed by Landorus-Therian, who's better in permanent rain, because of its higher special attack, hard-hitting thunder, and Volt Absorb ability. But from Gen 6 onwards, Zapdos would reclaim the title as superior electric flying type Pokemon. It gained Defog in that generation, which was fantastic utility. And, that's where defensive Zapdos became great. Gen 7, guess what? Zapdos can have static now and inflict paralysis on things. Gen 8, we got heavy-duty boots in the game, and that's wonderful to patch up that rock weakness. And in the modern day in Gen 9, Zapdos actually lost a lot of options. It lost Defog. It can't use Hidden Power anymore either since Gen 8, but it's still good. It's still doing the same stuff. It can pivot, it can hit things hard, and it is immune to ground. It's good against Great Tusk. Still going strong with that great combination of defensive and offensive traits, the good typing, the hard-hitting attacks. What more can be said? Zapdos is eternal. If Zapdos is not viable in Gen 10, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised to see it. We'll have to wait until that comes to pass to see. Up next, you gotta give it to Gliscor. This Pokemon is unbelievably consistent. Introduced all the way back in Generation 4, where it got by pretty much just on its excellent ground flying typing and move pool. It did not have the ability Poison Heal back then, but it was still good with its Taunt set that can help to break through walls, denying them healing and stuff. Its Swords Dance set, and just that good typing. It's sand immune. It's taken minimal damage from rocks for a flying type. That's always nice, and it's got that spike immunity. Ground flying is just great. It's got that glaring weakness to ice and a weakness to water, but so many other advantages. And then in Gen 5, of course, this got Poison Heal. Perhaps the best defensive ability in the game. There's a few contenders for that title, but Poison Heal is seriously excellent. Instead of taking damage from poison, you heal 1/8 of your HP every turn from poison, which is unbelievable. This thing can achieve absurd chip heal. It has an effective status immunity thanks to this ability, and it is even unafraid of knockoff, because knockoff will not get rid of its healing effect from the poison it inflicts on itself with a toxic orb. Gliscor has fantastic move pool as well, with Stealth Rock, U-Turn, Knockoff, Toxic, Defog in Gens 6 and 7, and in Gen 9 it got buffed with access to Spikes, which is truly excellent. Recently got Suspect tested, but was not banned. But certainly one of the most important and powerful defensive Pokemon in Gen 9, and throughout history really. I think they'd have to nerf Gliscor pretty significantly for it to fall off in Gen 10. I don't know. I think the Gliscor is just fundamentally so excellent that I'm doubtful it'll fall off in Gen 10. Up next, Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is not in Gen 9, but if it was, it would certainly be good, as it always is. This is an excellent defensive utility Pokemon introduced in Gen 5. In Gen 5, it is one of the best Pokemon in the format, and in every generation since, it's just one of the best hazard setters and defensive pivots as well. It's got a grass steel typing. It's not as good as like bug steel or other defensive typings, but it's pretty damn good. You resist a lot, including, incoming fairy, dragon hits, normal type hits. A lot of stuff. You got the ability Iron Barbs, which is just a built-in rocky helmet. Anything making contact with you will take 1/8 of its max HP and damage. That's just great for a passive chip damage effect, giving you a little bit more value on your defensive switch-ins. It's so easy for Ferrothorn to rack up damage with this, especially if it's equipping a rocky helmet on top of that and just doubling up on the chip damage. And Ferrothorn has both Stealth Rock and Spikes. It's got knockoff for beautiful item removal, always good. It even has Thunder Wave for status. It has Leech Seed as well. It's got pretty much everything you need for a hazard setter. All the hazards and other ways to make progress too. Ferrothorn has an issue of, limited longevity. It doesn't have any good healing moves or anything, but it's such an effective hazard setter that it's just often going to pay for itself in value, chipping things with Iron Barbs, setting all these layers, removing some items, and it even operates as a check to things with its pretty hard-hitting Power Whip and Gyro Ball, which do stab damage and can check enemy fairy types or water types or whatever. So it's pretty threatening to a lot of common enemies. In like Gen 5 OU, it checks Starmie, it checks Kyurem Black or something with the Gyro Ball. You can just hit things neutrally for pretty impressive damage, honestly. So this kind of has it all, and the stats are just fantastic with great defenses, solid enough HP. This is kind of a perfect hazard setting utility Pokemon that I'm sure, if it returns, it'll just go right back into being solid in OU once again, of course. It's worth noting that Ferrothorn does have some problematic and outdated opinions that have left him ostracized from his fellow Pokemon, but he's spent one generation in timeout this time. He's not in Gen 9. Maybe in Gen 10, he'll return with a new perspective and reflect on his wrongdoing. We can all hope that that's the case. I certainly hope so. Up next, we've got Clefable. This one wasn't always a consistent choice in competitive. It had to get a significant buff before it came into the forefront, but once it got that buff, it became a staple forever. In Gen 4, Clefable was blessed with the new ability Magic Guard, which is one of Pokemon's greatest abilities, granting a complete immunity to indirect damage. And before that, Clefable was just a normal type Pokemon with not much to offer, poor stats, outclassed by fellow normal types like Chansey and Blissey, etc. But once it got this ability right here, it shot up in viability significantly. In Gen 4, with its normal typing still back then, it is one of the best Pokemon in the format. Sidestepping hazards, Sand Chip, Poison, Leech Seed, everything, and it can function pretty well defensively thanks to that with its great utility move pool, access to healing options, Soft-Boiled, Moonlight. It's got Stealth Rock to make a better progress. It's got Knockoff to remove items, Thunder Wave. It can even be a Calm Mind sweeper back then. In Gen 5, still good. Not officially ranked OU, but you see it in tournaments. It's still a normal type back then as well, and it's good on Hail teams because it ignores the Hail damage while your enemy doesn't, and it's knocking off items to rack up more Hail chip damage and stuff. Really good utility defensive Pokemon on Hail teams, and sometimes slower paced Sand teams as well, perhaps with the Hippo. In Gen 6, it also gained another significant new buff, becoming a Fairy type instead of a normal type, and that's a much better type. Normal is alright, but you're weak to fighting, and you don't have any good resistances. You got Ghost immunity, but that's it. Fairy typing, however, offers beautiful Dragon immunity. It offers resistances to such types as Fighting and Bug. It's pretty good neutrally against most of the game. You're weak to Steel and Poison, but they can be covered elsewhere really easily. And you also gained access to Stab Moonblast, which is just a great neutral special attack against many things. It even has the advantageous secondary effect of lowering the enemy's special attack, which can come up and save your life. Before this, Clefable didn't really have a good stab option, and normal type special attacks aren't very good. Fairy type special attacks, though, are great. The Clefable can be a Calm Mind sweeper with Moonblast as well. It can even run a Life Orb because Magic Guard ignores the recoil damage, but usually it's used as a utility Pokemon with its excellent sidestepping of all indirect damage, its ability to make hazards, check things, knock items off. It's just really, really solid. And in Gen 9 OU, it's still good. This idea is not aged poorly, it has aged very well. Clefable's still around, still doing its thing. Despite pretty poor stats, I mean, that's just how good Magic Guard, a Fairy typing, and a strong move pool are. Stats are the only thing keeping it at bay, really. At least you can break through it with high power moves, super effective moves, etc. But everything else about it is just outstanding. Clefable, very consistent. Up next is Blissey. Blissey has been the best special wall in Pokemon for as long as I can even remember. Introduced back in Gen 2 as an evolution for Chansey, Blissey's whole gimmick is that it has massive HP and massive special defense, as well as, you know, good defensive options. It can heal, it can make Stealth Rock status enemies use support options like Wish, Aromatherapy, etc. And it's got the ability Natural Cure, which heals status conditions on switch out, so giving that a little bit of longevity there too. Blissey is not ranked OU in Gen 9, but it always props up when you need it. It always does the job of just handling special threats. It has been OU at certain points in the metagame, and when the metagame calls for it, it will answer. And you have to give Blissey some respect for being pretty consistently seen up in Ubers over the years as one of the few things in the game that can actually handle powerful special attacking legendaries. It's pretty good against enemies like Kyogre, formerly Miraidon before that was banned from the format, Palkia, etc. I mean, any legendary special attacker, it doesn't matter if you're a legendary, you're not going to get through Blissey. You're simply not. I think also part of the reason this is no longer OU is because they nerfed the guy. They took away its powerful status options like Toxic being the main one. It can still Thunder Wave, but doesn't feel great to Thunder Wave into like Great Tusk, Gliscor, etc. If this still had Toxic, I think it would perhaps still be a formidable foe, but it still sees play in defensive teams in Gen 9. Nothing can quite wall special threats like Blissey, even to this day. So you gotta give Blissey some significant respect for standing the test of time in this role. Up in Ubers, they're still using Blissey. They forgot how to make special walls like this. They got it right the first time. What can be said? Up next, Dragonite is an incredibly consistent Pokemon. Similar to Clefable though, it wasn't that fantastic until it received a big buff that defined its identity from then on. It was okay in the early generations. In Gen 3, it's outclassed by Salamence, who is a superior dragon flying type Pokemon. In Gen 4 though, Dragonite had its day. It's still outclassed by Salamence there, but Salamence is actually banned, so Dragonite is the second best thing. In Gen 5 is where Dragonite received its significant glow up, with the new ability Multi-Scale. If you're at full HP, damage taken from attacks is halved. This is an amazing ability, giving you a safety net against just about any attack, even super effective ones, which gives you that free turn to set up Dragon Dance and sweep games. Dragonite is a frightening Pokemon in just about every generation as a result of this. Some sets even abuse Roost to continuously go back to full health to keep reducing your incoming damage over and over, and that can be an effective strategy too. So ever since receiving Multi-Scale, this has been ranked OU in every single generation except Gen 7. Even there it's quite good, you see it from time to time. And in Gen 9, of course, it's better than ever, with Boots existing since Gen 8, but Terra Normal being a fantastic new option, giving you that stab extreme speed. I think this simple combination of good offensive options and multi-scale will probably stand the test of time for many years to come. Up next, look who's back. It's Volcarona. This moth always seems to appear to me when I least desire it, but what can be done? Volcarona, introduced in Gen 5 immediately, became a superstar of hyper offense with its Quiver Dance move, providing +1 special attack, special defense, and speed in a single turn. Off the back of a great offensive move pool and stats, it's an explosive threat that just needs one turn of setup sometimes to clean up a game. This can be a game plan to build around, or you can just throw this at the enemy, get a couple KOs and clean up with the rest of your offensive team. And this has stood the test of time very well. It's pretty much great in every generation. I think in one of the gens it's not OU, but it's still used on hyper offense anyway. And in Gen 9 the guy's banned. I mean, they keep buffing it indirectly as well. Boots was such a buff for this because it lost its times for rock weakness. So that was a big deal in Gen 8. You could still check it pretty well in Gen 8 though, with various bulky water types or whatever. But in Gen 9 it could terrestrialize, and that was the last straw, allowing allowing it to become any type in the world and bypass what little weaknesses it had left. So that tells you a lot. Ever since the beginning, this has been just on the brink of brokenness, and when you buff it a couple times, it is broken in a direct way. In Gen 10, I think we'll also see Volcarona come back. I don't know if Terra will be there, probably not. But will Volcarona be able to abuse some other mechanic? It used Z moves pretty well. What are we going to get? X moves, deal 10,000 damage, and become a ascended being, Gigantamaximus. That's probably Gen 10's gimmick. Volcarona is going to be the premier abuser, and it's going to be banned to Uber's RU. I'm predicting this, and this is exactly how events will play out. Up next, I think I'll give a shout out to Skarmory. Some say this guy has fallen off in the modern day. It's outclassed by some other superior Pokemon with the same typing, but I think Skarmory's pretty damn consistent. Introduced all the way back in Gen 2, this was a superstar of the all-new Steel type at the time. Steel Flying is just an unbelievable typing, one of the best combos in the game. You're immune to so much. You're immune to Sand Spikes, Toxic Poison, you got a million resistances. And Skarmory has excellent defense, 140 base. Its other stats aren't the best, but that defense is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Skarmory gets all the hazards, it gets Spikes, Stealth Rock, it even gets Roost for healing. It gets Whirlwind for phasing, Brave Bird for an attack to click. In many generations, it gets Defog, Toxic, and other such things. And this is just similar to Ferrothorn. It's just an incredibly good hazard setting defensive Pokemon. It's got more longevity than Ferrothorn can say it has. And in Gen 9, I mean, the thing about Skarmory in the modern day is that Corviknight now exists, a competitor towards Skarmory who has the same typing but has access to U-turn, which is a pretty massive deal, allowing defensive pivoting. And that's really powerful for generating momentum, bringing in offensive threats and whatnot. In Gen 9 also, Skarmory no longer has Defog, but Corviknight does, so that gives Corviknight a little bit of an edge in that sense too. But at the same time, I think Skarmory is pretty nice in Gen 9. At the moment it's ranked UU, but I don't know if that reflects its power. I think in Gen 9, Skarmory is quite good. Spikes feel really powerful in Gen 9 because they punish defensive Pokemon more generally than Stealth Rocks do. The Stealth Rocks are often not as impactful because rock-weak Pokemon tend to run boots. So Spikes are hitting more things, and you also have Goldengo for support now who can block, defog, and rapid spin in one. So Goldengo enhances Spikes as a strategy, and Skarmory has all the same defensive value Corviknight has, checking Great Tusk. You're even pretty nice into like Iron Valiant or something. Skarmory has plenty of defensive value. Sturdy can even come up sometimes, and that's a useful tool to have. The Skarmory, I think, is pretty fundamentally solid, good in most generations, and it has stood the test of time impressively well. And of course, what would this video be without Landorus-Therian appearing? Landorus-Therian, ever since its introduction, has been a staple. They got this right immediately, and it has been great in every single generation since. Landorus-Therian introduced in Gen 5, a ground-flying type similar to Gliscor. However, Landorus-Therian has a bit more of an offensive punch to it. It's got the ability Intimidate, that's good immediate value from switching in, lowering the enemy's attack stat. It's also an ability that has stood the test of time massively, introduced back in Gen 3 this ability, and it's still good to this day, just immediate value from switching in is always nice. Landorus-Therian has really good stats, notably that massive attack stat. You don't even often invest in attack, you usually go for the defensive stats just to be more sturdy, get more out of Intimidate and your utility options, but this base attack is enough to hit pretty damn hard with Landorus without even any investment. You can just hit him with a big Earthquake. You have Stealth Rock as a straightforward great hazard. You've got Earthquake, you've got U-turn. And this is just an excellent bulky pivot hazard setter. Check to various things. Choice Scarf user. Way better than Gliscor in that sense, because it's much faster. And in most generations, it gets all the utility in the world too, like Knockoff to remove items and for dark coverage as well. Gets Defog, Toxic, all beautiful. In Gen 9 though, Landorus-Therian had its first hiccup as Great Tusk was introduced, who seemingly was way better, and Landorus-Therian lost so many of its good options like Defog and Toxic and Knockoff. But still in Gen 9, it's holding strong as a very popular Pokemon, still ranked in OU, setting itself apart from the now crowded role of bulky ground type defensive guy, because it can still, ignore Spikes. It's actually good against enemy Great Tusk in many scenarios. They can Ice Spinner you, but you're good in a lot of cases. Landorus-Therian, I mean, Intimidate and U-Turn are so valuable. Great Tusk does not have U-Turn. Gliscor does, but Landorus-Therian is faster, more threatening offensively than Gliscor can hope to be. So Landorus-Therian holding strong. It also started recently to use special attacking options like Earth Power and Grass Knot to hit enemies like Great Tusk and King Gambit. So of course, Landorus-Therian is an unbelievably consistent competitive Pokemon. Also really good in doubles in every generation it's there, so outstanding, truly. And now I thought I'd talk about some Pokemon that were incredibly consistent, and it seemed like they would always be good until Gen 9 came around and ruined everything. One of these is Heatran, who has been a competitive mainstay for as long as I've played the game. Introduced in Gen 4, where it was immediately excellent, with its Fire-Steel typing and the ability Flash Fire, which complements it very well, granting an immunity to Fire-type move. That great defensive typing along with very solid stats, massive special attack, good bulk everywhere, and fantastic options like Magma Storm, hard-hitting Fire-type moves, Stealth Rock of course, Taunt for wall-breaking potential, Earth Power for coverage. All of that combined has been a recipe for success for Heatran in many generations. And this is one of my favorite competitive mainstays. I really love its design because it doesn't feel too overtuned in any particular area. It's very weak to ground and water type moves. It's not that fast, but it's really solid at what it does. Checks certain things, is weak to others. Has no healing or anything. And it also punishes greedy teams with the Magma Storm Taunt combo to trap them. So I really like Heatran. In Gen 9 though, it hasn't felt fantastic. It's been OU in the past, but at the moment it's UU. Doesn't feel very worth running at the moment. Stealth Rock alone is no longer the best hazard. It feels better to have spikes. It's still good, but it's not what it once was. It's not as impactful as it once was. You're not really trapping stuff with Magma Storm. I mean, think of like Tinglu and Clodsire and all these new special walls that can just sidestep that whole thing from Heatran. It feels pretty easy to stop. It's also not walling anything in particular. Heatran was also always one of the best things against Volcarona, but Volcarona is no longer here. You're pretty nice into Iron Moth, but not exactly a Pokemon you see on every single team ever. It still has good defensive merits, but it just feels like there's better things to run in Gen 9. Maybe it's just not the metagame for Heatran. We'll see if in Gen 10 maybe it returns to prominence. It has all the fundamental strengths it always has. It's just maybe not the time for it. Up next we've got Tornadus-Therian. A very consistent Pokemon over the years. Debuted in Generation 5 where it was actually banned for its powerful Hurricane plus U-Turn combo on rain teams, which was a little bit overwhelming back then. From Gen 6 onwards though, this became a staple very quickly. It's easy to see why. Very solid stats on this, especially the high speed. Especially also considering that it has the ability Regenerator, which is an amazing ability, granting 1/3 of your max HP in healing every single time you switch, turning this into an incredibly reliable defensive pivot Pokemon that can also U-turn out, do utility stuff like knockoff. It has defog in most generations. It can actually hit pretty hard with Hurricane and also Bleak Wind Storm in Gen 9. Just a really nice utility pivot. In Gen 9 though, it's ranked UU, not that popular in the current generation. I think it's alright though. It doesn't have defog anymore. They got rid of defog on a lot of things. I think it would be nice if this had defog. We need a bit more hazard removal with Goldango being so powerful. But, you know, maybe the lower defensive stats on this are starting to catch up to it, and the utility it does have, maybe other Pokemon can achieve this better. I don't know though, I feel like looking at this, it still seems pretty strong, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it rise back up to OU in Gen 9. I'm not sure what's too bad about this, honestly. Why aren't people using this? It seems strong to me. We'll see how the metagame progresses, and we'll see what Gen 10 has in store for Tornadus-Therian. Up next is of course Garchomp, a Pokemon that's been very consistent and a mainstay in OU for years. Up until Gen 9 of course, unfortunately. But back in Gen 4 when this debuted, it was actually banned from the format for being a little bit too powerful back then. It was ahead of the curve. Dragon types were at their peak back in Gen 4. From Gen 5 onwards though, it's a staple of OU for clear reasons. It's got very nice stats, above average speed with the 102, just outrunning all the base 100 Pokemon, and very solid everywhere else, even a pretty high HP stat and massive attack. Dragon Ground is a great typing, offensively and defensively. You got Stealth Rock on this, you've got Swords Dance Outrage, it not only a good utility Pokemon that can defensively check stuff, you are significantly threatening. Garchomp also has good mixed coverage options like the Life Orb Fire Blast set, which poses a big threat to Ferrothorn, who otherwise walls your other sets, or at least slows them down. That's going to hit them for big damage. Same with Skarmory. Skarmory's going to really suffer against the Fire Blast set. In Gen 9 though, I mean, the bulky ground type role is getting more and more crowded, and Garchomp is suffering from its poor matchup into fairies. You know, competition from Great Tusk, Landorus-Therian, and Gliscor, and even Ting-Lu, who all just feel better. It does have spikes now, that's a good buff, but Garchomp's only real thing setting it apart still is its access to Rough Skin, which is good. You can do the Rough Skin plus Rocky Helmet stacking, and run a tank Garchomp set with Dragon Tail pictured here, but doesn't feel that great. You're vulnerable to a lot of common attackers. Something like Gliscor will just be a lot better with its immunity to so many things and much superior utility options and access to pivoting, item removal. Before Gliscor was in the game, Garchomp was still pretty good, but Garchomp has slowly been phased out in Gen 9, regrettably. I do wonder if Ferrothorn returns in Gen 10, maybe Garchomp will come back, because the fact that it can Fire Blast Ferrothorn has always been a good trait for Garchomp. I've always been fond of the mixed attacking Garchomp set, in particular. Is this Garchomp's final hurrah? Is this a bad Pokemon now? It's a little bit crazy to see Garchomp not ranked in OU in Gen 9, and it doesn't even feel that good to use. Very upsetting time. Very upsetting. Mew is another one. Another Gen 1 classic. Great in most generations. Back in Gens 1 to 4, this Pokemon was in fact ranked in Ubers for its versatile options and overwhelming strength. Mew is defined by its incredibly vast move pool. It can learn any TM in the entire game, giving it unique combinations of options that other things don't get. Also has 100 base stats across the board, giving it extreme flexibility. It can be an offensive sweeper in both the physical or special attack departments. It can be a utility Pokemon with options like Will-O-Wisp, Defog, Roost for healing, Taunt, and whatever coverage option you want to. It can get Flamethrower, Ice Beam, just about any attack you can think of it can probably get, and it's been a great option in many generations. Unfortunately though, in Gen 9 they cut all of Mew's options. The most notable thing that it lost was Roost. It can't even heal anymore. It has no Roost or Soft Boil. That's kind of a death sentence for this Pokemon. As an offensive threat, while it has many options, it's not gonna outrank the offensive threats of Gen 9, such as, you know, Iron Valiant, Roaring Moon. Mew's a little bit behind the curve. It does have a lot of versatility, but without the ability to heal, it doesn't feel very worth using. If you want an aggro spike setting lead, you've got Samurott, Hisui, you've got Glamora. Gliscor is even better there. Like, it's not that aggro, but it's much more useful in more matchups. Mew is not really providing any defensive utility anymore. It's not offensively that powerful, it's just kind of average. And it's all the way down in NUBL, unfortunately, in Gen 9 OU. Despite years of pretty consistent power, Mew now, is it even his fault? I mean, they got rid of its healing. I wish that Mew could still heal. I would like to see him back, but they've put out a hit on Mew, unfortunately. They put out a hit. What can be done? And finally, Tyranitar, the goat of competitive Pokemon in the eyes of many, but maybe not anymore. Tyranitar, since its introduction in Gen 2 OU, has been outstanding. A pseudo-legendary, of course, defined by its ability Sandstream, which sets Sandstorm on the field. In Gens 3, 4, and 5, that was permanent Sandstorm, obviously metagame defining to an extreme extent, but even when Sandstorm was nerfed, Tyranitar maintained its power just because it's got such excellent stats, such a good move pool with a vast array of options. The Sandstorm still has its value, activating Sand Rush and other such abilities, as well as just chipping the enemy, buffing your rock types, etc. And of course, Tyranitar's always been great as a pursuit trapper, eliminating enemy ghost and psychic types quite reliably. In Gen 8 though, Tyranitar lost its option of Pursuit. Pursuit was removed from the game entirely. Amazingly though, Tyranitar still held on as a solid Pokemon, setting Sand and all of its great, bulk and vast options. There was a Choice Band set that was quite good. Still maintained its OU position despite losing its best move. But in Gen 9, Tyranitar finally and historically fell down to UU. It was even as low as RU at some point, I think, which is very unfortunate to see. There's a few reasons for it. I mean, Tyranitar, Sand synergy isn't that great anymore. Not having Pursuit feels pretty bad. Setting Stealth Rock doesn't even feel that great anymore. And it really just can't keep up with modern times very much at all. I think it's okay in Gen 9 though. Excadrill teams are alright. It's got knockoff at least. knockoff is fun. I actually think Boots is a good item on it to give it a little bit more longevity, and it can spread knockoff, get some sand chips. Sand feels alright as well. You can Ice Beam Gliscor, you can bait them with that. It's a pretty good bait. They think they're safe against you. They might even switch it in. And the Stealth Rock knockoff combo is good. You often get rid of Boots on key targets, and that makes Stealth Rock more effective. But it's definitely not what it once was at all, not even close. This used to be a mainstay of every OU generation, very commonly seen. At certain points, it's the #1 Pokemon in the entire game. You could argue that in Gen 3, 4, and 5, it's the #1 Pokemon, or at least tied for that position in all those generations. But no longer. It's no longer what it once was. But you still have to give it a lot of credit for its incredible consistency and metagame-defining presence. And honestly, if the metagame calls for it, it could be OU again. We never know. I mean, Zapdos fell down to UU in Gen 5 and then next generation, and from then on, it's just back to business, back to OU. Maybe this is a one-gen situation, and in Gen 10, the GOAT will come back as it always does. We'll have to wait and see. But that does it, folks, for this little video about competitive Pokemon that often or always succeed. Did I miss out on any noteworthy ones? And what is your favorite example of this? My favorite Pokemon I talked about in this video is, of course, Tyranitar. But what about you? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching as always.